Hello. Welcome to this candidate uh, interview with Ryan Bongard and Angela Churchill, candidates for Ward 2 in St. Charles. We're going to get to know them a little bit and their view on some of the issues. Um, Ryan, why don't you go first and tell us a little about yourself and why you're running?
Sure. Well, good morning, Angela. Good morning, David, Kevin. It's good to see everybody this morning. So I am the current Second Ward Alderman. I've been fortunate enough to have that seat since 2021. I've lived on the east side in the Second Ward for the past 16 years. My wife Stephanie and I have been together for 20 years. We have four very busy sons. And when I'm not at City Hall or I guess on the campaign trail, I am the Chief Executive Officer for a strategic planning company called 1221. Um, I'm running because I think that the momentum for this city is positive. I think that the progress that we've made, over these 3.5 years is great, and I'd like to see that moving forward. When I got into this, gosh, I ran initially in 2019, was unsuccessful, ran again in 2021. I appreciate, these are really busy times. They're stressful, campaigns, etc. When you're running against your neighbors. The reason I got involved 6 years ago was you saw the same names, the same faces that were showing up. There really wasn't a ton of participation. There wasn't a ton of engagement. I think voter turnout, the first time I ran was about 13%. A big motivation of mine was to just try and get more people involved, to try and get more people engaged. And I'm happy, the last election cycle, 2023, 2021, we're making progress. We're getting more people. I appreciate, Angela, I'm sure will say it's not, this takes a lot of time. There's a lot of forums, there's a lot of conversations, a lot of door knocking. There's a lot, and people are going to disagree. People are going to have different perspectives, and I sincerely appreciate that. You're not going to get everybody to agree. So I'm running because I want to continue to keep the positive momentum moving forward. There is a lot of big stuff ahead for the city, and I want to keep that positive momentum moving forward.
Thank you, Ryan. Angela?
Well, good morning, everyone, and thanks for hosting this. My name is Angela Churchill, and I am running for Second Ward Alderperson for the City of St. Charles. My family and I have been in St. Charles for roughly 25 years, with our children attending from kindergarten through high school. I am the current VP for our HOA for 10 plus years. I'm also a city commissioner with the St. Charles Natural Resources Commission since 2019, as well as had the privilege to serving as the co-chair in the chairperson's absence. Additionally, I contribute to an NRC ad hoc team and an advisory role for the dam task force. I professionally am a senior executive administrator with extensive experience working with C-suite executives, attorneys.
Angela, you're muted.
You just went muted.
Can you unmute? We can't do it on our end.
Am I muted too?
No.
No.
Oh, the little mute signal just went away.
Okay, I don't know.
Yeah, that's better.
That's really bad. Sorry, I don't know what happened because I didn't touch anything.
No.
Let's see, where was I?
System.
So with hopefully everything was heard. With that background, that's going to provide, in my opinion, to being able to effectively manage the complexities of city government. I am deeply committed to promoting accountability and transparency within city government. Both of those are exceptionally high for me, while also advocating for fiscal responsibility across all areas with efficient and smart spending. Please visit my website, churchillstc.com, for more details and contact information. I also wanted to add something this morning because this has been brought to my attention, that I didn't know when I was running, when I was going to decide to run as alderperson to make a better change and for, for my ward representation and for the city that I would actually encounter some of um, things going on that I just find it really unfortunate. I've had a few of my signs removed from private properties. So I generally hope that, going forward, people just kind of refrain from that. I mean, everyone should be able to have their signs out on private properties and with their permission, obviously. So hopefully that doesn't continue. But yeah, I just, it's just a little bit, upsetting to see that some people want to do something like that. And I'm not making any blames or anything, but I've had reports, so I just wanted to kind of address that.
Okay, thank you.
Uh-huh.
We'll head on to our first question. Angela, you go first on this one. What would you need to accomplish in the next 4 years to consider your term a success?
Oh, okay. Well, there are three big topics for me. One is the mall, second is the IMEA contract, and the third is the police station. With regards to the mall, the collaboration working with the mall developers concept ceased to continue after there was a split vote requiring a tiebreaker vote to be cast to annex property from DuPage County to allow another developer to create what's known as the Springs, which is a 350 plus apartment compound. Prior to that vote, the mall developer had written a letter, which I do have a copy of it on my website, to basically explain the impact of the concept to develop the entire mall area. As everyone knows, for going on 2 decades, for years, the mall has been an eyesore with potential public safety issues with zero progress and zero collaboration. It's going to create, unfortunately, a disappointing hardship for the area going forward. And developing the mall is going to be a priority and should have actually been a priority just to get the job done. So I'm eager to really work and collaborate with the developer and make sure that this is finally taken care of, and look forward to substantial tax revenue that it should have already been brought into the city. This topic right there is going to be my number one priority when I get voted in. IMEA, for those who might not know, we receive energy from Prairie State via contract with IMEA, who provides 80% of its power through the supply of coal plants. They want St. Charles, along with Naperville, Winnetka, and Peru, to sign a new contract 10 years before it actually expires. So it doesn't actually make financial sense to sign a 20-year contract 10 years before the expiration date. It's too early. The technology is forever going to be changing, as we know. And this contract, by signing it, will actually lock us in to the year of 2055. We just don't know enough about the IMA resource planning and the risk and assessments to responsibly sign this contract. From an overall standpoint, this IMEA deal as it stands should absolutely not be signed. And doing so would highly be inadvisable and irresponsible. An open bidding process to find a clean supplier and electricity can happen over the course of the next 10 years, because we do still have 10 years of the contract. So we have time to find better sources. And they will be cheaper. So just having a cleaner mix of energy and saying no to coal is overall going to be beneficial for our area. Lastly, the police station. I'm actually thankful that the concepts that were proposed a few years ago were turned down. I know that there was a significant resident force coming out to try to make sure that that didn't happen. So I'm very thankful that that didn't happen because I believe in preserving the riverfront green space and the iconic and historic buildings, and ensuring that it remains accessible to public is essential for fostering that strong connection with community and maintaining that aesthetic charm. Open areas provide a unique opportunity for residents to enjoy the outdoors and just kind of connect and just kind of take it all in. It's like a relaxing spot for people to do and read, meditate. It connects them to the city better, in my opinion. So I will actually continue to oppose any large scale projects that might potentially come up. So I would like to keep that area just a modest redevelopment. So that's where I stand on the three topics. Sorry, that's get lengthy.
No, thank you. Ryan, same question. What would you need to accomplish in the next 4 years to consider your term a
Kevin,
success?
gotcha. Sorry, I was going to ask you to repeat the question. I kind of lost what it was. So I'm gonna bundle a couple of these things because there are there's a couple of different factors. So first and foremost, to have a city that is a place that people want to continue to visit, that they want to do business in, that they want to buy a home and raise a family, you have to be sound financially. And if you look back over the last, call it 2 or 3 administrations, there was this tendency to down the road financially, to not invest in infrastructure projects, to not tackle the city's financial obligations the way that you should. There's a difference between campaigning and governing. Anybody can hop on a camera or knock at a door and tell people what they want to hear or get people riled up on one particular issue. But when you're actually in the seat and you got to make tough decisions about how you're going to fund your water infrastructure, how you're going to pay for your roads, how you're going to pay down your debt, how you're going to pay your police and fire department pensions, those are tough calls. So one of to call your next 4 years a success, or what you're going to prioritize, is ensuring that our financial viability, that the health of the city's finances continue to be positive, to have that arrow pointing. Because if you don't have that, all of these other issues become a distant second. If you have a city that can't pay and keep itself sustained, that becomes very problematic. A second issue, and we're going to kind of, I guess we'll just sweep over the east side of town, is the east side of this city has never looked as good as it does. I mean, if you look, Angela's lived here over 20 years. I'm not far behind her. And it wasn't very long ago you went down 64 and almost all of that commercial space was vacant. You had a couple of spots. You've got Fox Haven Square, you've got new development, you have new energy on that east side of town. We have to continue to make smart decisions, continue to partner with the right developers who want to take over and do different projects so that we can connect this, but continuing that momentum on the east side. In terms of the mall, it's important to make sure that people understand the entire timeline of this. Back in 2022, yes, there was a proposal. Like many years in the past, there had been a proposal that came through. It didn't have the support by the majority of council members. Not one. You had the majority of people say, "Hey, I don't think this is a good plan." But there's also a catch here. It didn't go to a vote. The developer chose not to bring it to pass the concept phase. There's I've heard this speech a few times. There's a little bit of confusion between the Springs development and what that vote was, and ultimately the mall. The mall, the S.R. Jacobson plan, they went to concept and they chose to not move forward. So everybody wants the mall to be developed. It's an incredibly important piece, but also understanding its ownership. It's not the developer. We need to work with the developer. There is no developer. It's the owner. So my vision to call a success for that east side is obviously continuing the positive momentum we have. But when it comes to the mall, it's time to get the mall ownership group, not a developer, the ownership group, to start rehabbing that space on their own, separate of some unicorn project down the line or some TIF or something. They can start making improvements. They can start fixing up that space on their own. And then the last one, as we are growing, as we have an old city, we have a evolving, community. St. Charles has been around a long time. If you look at the way our city was designed and the way it was laid out, traffic, pedestrian safety, walkability, just those concerns about how somebody can get from Route 25, cut through my neighborhood on Fox Chase, past Angela's neighborhood, get to the high school, snake their way through the high school, and get up to Jewel. Has that been an issue? It's been an issue for a long time, but that issue is only getting worse. And when you add in a Fox Haven Square, when you do have the new Chipotle, when you have these things growing, we have to make sure that we have a sound plan and partnering with the police department to make sure that our roads can handle this influx of traffic and that things are safe. So those are the three areas. If you look 4 years from now to say, hey, did we accomplish it? Did we make progress? Those are the three areas that I would focus in on.
I would like to just add a quick comment with regards to the mall. SR Jacobson, the developer of the mall, had sent a letter to City Council on September 7th, 2021. I have it right here, and I also have it on my website. I just want to read a quick paragraph that he mentions at the end. He says, it does not seem to be in the best interest of the city to annex greenfield property immediately adjacent to the site within the city boundaries that must first be redeveloped, particularly since the proposed annexation is for same multifamily use that is a critical component for the redevelopment of the mall to succeed. So that's the letter that he sent to the mall, and that letter was sent prior to the decision to annex the property from DuPage County.
Sure, so, but let's keep this in perspective. You have one opinion from the developer themselves, who of course is going to make the argument that they don't want anything they perceive to be a competitive threat. They're going to send a letter saying don't do that. If you go back to the minutes when the Springs and other consultants were there, the same question was posed and the opposite answer was given. If you look at the way car dealerships and the way other retail are developed, you see those things develop together in unison. The SR Jacobson it's in the minutes, SR Jacobson did not want there to be any development for a minimum of 4 years, commercial and residential. So if you would have followed through with the SR Jacobson plan, it's not hard to assume that a lot of the progress that you've made on that east side would not have happened, because SR Jacobson wouldn't have allowed other things to go in place. Chick-fil-A might not have gone in, Chipotle, Fox Haven Square, obviously the Springs. That's okay. I mean, if SR Jacobson's opinion was, hey, we can't have anything to affect this development, I respect that opinion, but that's one opinion. And that isn't 100% factual. That's one opinion from the developer who had their opinion of what they wanted that development to look like.
Well, I just think that since he was going to incorporate mixed use, that having another developer put in 300 plus apartments was going to completely oversaturate the area and basically cause that development. I mean, I think that, well, not only my opinion, but everyone else that I've spoken to said that the mall should have been top priority. So it's going to continue to create more issues, unfortunately, going forward.
But I'm sorry, but that's an opinion. That's not fact. That's your perspective of saying, well, hey, you should have done X. Let's go back to the SR Jacobson plan as well. They didn't have a coherent strategy for what they were going to do with the commercial aspect. They wanted to build 50% of that residential on the back half. Why would one developer say, hey, you guys can't do anything else, and another developer come in and say, yeah, we're not at all threatened. Perhaps their financial situation was better. Perhaps their timeline was going to be better. Perhaps they weren't interested in building the project and ultimately selling. SR Jacobson had made comments about how long they planned to intend to hold that development. They were going to build it, get it on the market in a few years, and move on. So you could sit here and say, yes, we want them all. We had a plan. This was a great plan. If it was so great, you had 7 council members in a concept plan to say, there's a number of questions and concerns with this that we just think are too big to move forward. The developer, SR Jacobson, not mall ownership group, SR Jacobson said, this is the plan. If you can't agree to all these things, then we're not interested in working with you guys. You have 7 council members that you go up and down the list that just are not comfortable with that. I don't think it's a fair. Everybody wants the mall to be done. The easy thing to say is, hey, we got the mall done. But I think it matters ultimately how the project gets done, what ultimately gets put in there, versus just saying, hey, we got something done.
Agreed. We shouldn't just do something just to get something done, but all that didn't take place, and the mall should have been a priority, and working with the developer to get what was going to work. If there were some other issues, I don't understand why it wasn't placed on priority. That's all. And a lot of other people, this isn't just my opinion. This is
Oh no, sure.
a whole slew of people that have been complaining for a while. So
I sat
anyway.
in, and this is the last thing I'll say, and this is not, I mean, there's no way that, I mean, I sat in on numerous Zoom calls with the developers, with the ownership group, and I personally asked them, would you be willing to do X? Could you swing this around? Could you make less? They wanted to keep all of the parking in the front. So when you drive down 64, all that parking lot that you see right now, all of that would still be there, even if there were shovels in the ground right now. They had no interest in moving the parking. I'm like, well, people want this to be developed. They don't want to feel like they're driving by a giant parking lot. Their answer to that was no. This is the project. So I'm with you. You want this to be developed. You want to be able to turn the page and move on, but it takes two to tango here. And the design that they provided in concept was the plan, period. You're on mute.
Thank you, everybody. That's the first question to ease everybody in. So now that we're all comfortable.
All right, we're gonna switch gears. We mentioned IMEA already, so that's a hot button topic right now. In your opinion, what are the most important qualities for the city's energy provider to have, and do you think that reflects the interest of residents? This one's gonna start with you, Ryan.
So, sorry, AirPod getting stuck there. I think the most important thing for whoever's the provider is ensuring that they are 100% transparent with what the energy mix is going to be for people. That is absolutely top of mind. People want to know where they're getting their energy, how it's being produced. When they flip their lights on, do they understand? So, whether it's continuing a partnership with IMEA down the road, whether it's finding a different provider, whatever that might be, the residents need to know, where my energy and power is being generated from. In terms of IMEA, I think everybody's in agreement right now. This was not a question of, hey, St. Charles is shopping potentially for a new deal. Let's see what's out there. IMEA jumps the gun and says, hey, we'd like you to, sign this 20-year contract extension. It's in IMEA's best interest because they want to know how much power they're going to need to procure, for the next 20 years. I understand why they want to do it, why it makes sense for them, but I've still yet to hear how it makes sense for your typical St. Charles resident or your business owner. We have a contract. We couldn't exit that deal if we woke up tomorrow and said, hey, we want to go. We couldn't do it. So why do they get to come back and ask? So the long-term play for IMEA is St. Charles needs to take as much time as it needs to come to an answer that it's happy with for the next 20 years. If that's 6 months, if that's 12 months, if it's 18 months, if it's 4 years, I don't think you could put a timeline on that because we have an existing contract. But the number one thing, whoever you have supplying your power, you have to be able to educate people and be 100% transparent about what the energy mix is.
Thank you, Ryan. Angela, same question.
So at the League of Women Voters forum that we had regarding the IMEA, there was actually only one person who came out and said that she would sign the contract. Everyone else seemed to say no. So, it's concerning that that anyone wants to sign this contract. Like I said earlier, it would be significantly irresponsible to put this on our town and taxpayers until 2055. IMEA, they don't really report to anyone other than the people that are in the contract, which are towns and taxpayers. There is no overhead, there's no oversight, there's no checks and balances. So, aside from the kind of the canned responses, oh, we need to make sure we have enough energy from, in order to appease all this, I mean, there is nothing else that they can actually give us, which is why everyone is really kind of nervous to sign a contract 10 years before it expires without any type of real discussion as to more in depth of why. It just doesn't make any sense. I mean, it's spooky to want to put everybody on the hook for this. So, the lack of transparency and the kind of the secrecy that goes around behind this with them, and they also were asked, what kind of technology, and they can't even provide that. There's nothing that really is transparent with this group. So, as it stands right now, what they want us to do, it's not a good idea for anybody to sign this contract. And with the 3 towns plus Peru, all of the money, all of our areas contain over 50% of the funding that IMEA needs. So they need all of the 4 of us in order to really continue on with this contract to make it work for them. So they are coming to us. They're giving us a deadline by the end of April to sign it. And it just seems kind of, it just doesn't make it right. It's just not a good idea to do this. We have 10 years left in the contract. We have 10 years to find better options that are going to be cleaner, better for the environment, and cost savings. So that's where I'm leaning with this.
Ryan, you have a follow-up on that?
Yeah, so I just want to, so their IMEA, I think something that's important to make sure that we're accurate with is, so they have all their meetings are public. Everybody has representation. Each city's a little bit different. So like we send Public Works, Petesch is our representative who goes and votes and sits on that. All those meetings are public. Anyone can go. All their information there. I think you're never going to find somebody arguing. Well, I shouldn't say you're never going to find somebody. I'm sure there's people out there who would argue against transparency, but you're absolutely right that we want to make transparent, all the decisions, what's being made. I think with IMEA, the important thing is the accountability part is, are we paying enough attention to this at council, at city staff, as residents, when decisions are being made, when votes are being cast, when IMEA is going, similar to city council, right? When you have decisions that are being made by IMEA, the information, the data is there, all their meetings are there, anybody can attend. The question though is the accountability. Are communities applying expectations to those people that are representing their community's IMEA? And I think that's a huge area moving forward. Regardless of what happens with this contract, is the attention and the accountability to those decisions and those people that are voicing those opinions and representing us absolutely should be increased.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next question, another citywide issue, but one with a lot of discussion. Angela, you'll go first. What role do you think the dam plays in the future of St. Charles?
For me, the dam has this picturesque quality to it, with providing a really nice backdrop. The extra ambiance that you get from it, from just walking across the bridge and listening to the water feature, it really just kind of enhances the charm of downtown St. Charles. I'm really hoping that St. Charles can continue to keep that vibe going for future generations to come. I know that my family and I have enjoyed it, as it reminds me when I would walk across the bridge with my children and rest of my family to go to the Scarecrow Festival and the Christmas Electric Parade. So we have a lot of great memories with that. I'm really hoping that the Army Corps of Engineers, they're doing an extra study with a report that's supposed to come out sometime next spring. I would love to keep the dam, as I already mentioned, that it does add to the beauty and charm of St. Charles, as long as it's safe for the community and economically feasible to do so that our taxpayers aren't on the hook for a significant amount of funding. There was some discussion about a modification that sounds like it would satisfy both sides of keeping it and removing it. So I'm actually really interested in hearing more feedback on that. I know I've talked to both sides where people wanted gone and kept it, and it seems like both parties are very interested in whatever modification might be out there that the Army Corps has or whatever. So I'm definitely interested in hearing more about that as well.
Okay, thank you. Ryan, same question.
Yeah, so I'm 100% in support of keeping the dam. I think the initial study that came out, if you go back and look at when this study came out and the time frame and some of the recommendations, and when ultimately the study was decided to be enacted on, and communities were engaged about, hey, it's time to take your dam, the timeline doesn't make a lot of sense to me. Also, when you compare a community like St. Charles, say, against Carpentersville and some of these other neighborhoods, the role that the dam plays is significantly different in one community to the next. So unfortunately, the study, some of these recommendations, painting with a very broad brush in terms of what the impact would be. I am on record. I was at a meeting on Tuesday, serving on the dam task force. I believe we need to keep the dam. In the event that you run into a situation where you are forced as a community to take it out, then I think you are obligated to look at some sort of modification, active river project, something that keeps that pool. Being the pride of the Fox, having that river cutting through your downtown, Mount St. Mary's Park, Potawatomi, City Hall, the impact of losing, that flow through the river is just, I can't see a scenario where we could be able to pivot from that. So I absolutely am in support of the dam. There's different reports. There's no question that we need to get an updated estimate, an updated study. But the current maintenance of the dam is marginal. The health of the dam, a study right before COVID said it was in very good shape. So I'm not concerned right now if the city were to inherit responsibility. It'd be more about, where does that jurisdiction fall? Does it fall on PD, Public Works? Do you have to create, a different oversight with it? But in terms of the cost and the maintenance of that and maintaining it, it seems like it's absolutely worth the investment. So I'm absolutely for keeping the dam.
Thank you.
Excellent. So this next question, I know we've already touched on the Charlestown Mall a bit and the Pheasant Run site. Those are both either, in your area or bordering them. The question is, in 10 years, where will you see the most change in your ward, and in what way will it change? And this one starts with you, Ryan.
Oh, that's a good one. You're running out of space to develop. And you also have a few factors that you have to keep in mind. Unfortunately, people aren't building, single family homes. I think the way that, communities like, most suburban communities would like. They'd like to see more single family development homes. So you're going to have to be honest. If you want, additional development, does it look like a mixed use? Does it look like, townhomes, apartments, senior housing, et cetera? But if you look, what role, what impact does DuPage Airport play? They are often, again, not a story that's picked up a lot of steam, but DuPage Airport's often talking about wanting to expand. They want to, put another runway. They want to move. So if you're looking 10 years, the opportunity to figure out what we want to be, what kind of, are we happy with the current amount of, development? Are we good with Foxhaven Square, having the mall go in? Do you want to have a mixed use? Do you want it to be, density residential? Do you want it to be senior housing? Are you content with the current layout? I would argue that we are right now. It's about filling in some of the gaps right now and finding pieces that are gonna complement what's currently existing. You're also going to have to find, with all of what these next 10 years look like, you're going to have to find a way to continue to balance this flow of traffic and this flow of people. Those two McGrath dealerships are doing extremely well. You have a lot of people that are flowing, down Kirk, that are coming from the other side, that are coming from out west, that are getting there, that get pulled. The more people you come, there's likely to want to be, more developed. You do have a lot of vacant land. Pheasant Run, the front parcels that are up there, there have been some initial concepts, ideas floated there. So, you're not going to get residential there. You're going to have a hard time getting, certain types of commercial there. You're not going to get, a hotel. So if you take a step back for 10 years, I think you have to answer it with, do you like the general layout of what you have, and can you fill in some of the gaps here? And I think that's going to be the biggest thing. I would like to see more housing dedicated to your 55 and older crowd. I'd like to see better ways people can get from, Walmart to Fox Haven Square to, past my neighborhood without necessarily having to get into a car. Making sure that, the industrial development on the east side that kind of is back behind 64 continues to be successful, but still balances in well with the commercial. So I think for a lot of part right now, it's about filling in some of these vacant space with complementary developments that make sense for, the surrounding neighborhoods.
Thank you. Angela?
What area of the ward most change? I mean, hopefully the Eastern Corridor along 64. That area has been overlooked for so long. It just almost seems like it's kind of treated as an afterthought. So getting that done in 10 years would be outstanding. Also emphasis placed on, of course, thoughtful additions that make sense. When I was speaking with some constituents over there, one of the things that they were talking about was they would like to see some single family homes with 1-story living, so a 55 plus area. And there are people, there's actually a former alderman that lives over behind the mall who is moving to Del Webb because there are no single one level living that he could find. So he's leaving the area just to have that. So there definitely seems to be a lot of interest in that. Hopefully that having all that area tied in will help fund. I mean, the Eastern Corridor is a big corridor for out of towners to come in. It needs to be vibrant. It needs to be inviting. It needs to say to people like, oh, wow, what's going on here? Let's go check out further, and just keep pulling people in. It's super important, to obviously keep attracting people to the area. Hey, Ryan, just out of curiosity, what are those concepts that are coming up as being in front of the Pheasant Run area? Can you talk about those?
Right?
Sorry, can you hear me? I was on mute there.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Sorry. Can you say that last part again?
You had mentioned that there's some concepts of ideas that are being thrown around about talking about right in front of the Pheasant Run area. Can you, I just am curious what those are.
Yeah, so there's been, obviously there's, you're going to get car dealerships. There's two different developers who have talked about wanting to put some dealerships in there. There's been a couple of conversations, and these are very preliminary and concepts that, what do you think would this fit? A significantly large gas station development based on the, where 64 and, your proximity to 59, and then leveraging the airport. The challenging part with that piece, obviously, is you want to find the right commercial. You're not going to be able to do residential there, and you have height restrictions due to the airport, and you've also got, DuPage that is, talking. So, well, it'd be interesting to watch, obviously in the weeks and months to come, which one of these, ultimately concepts of take the next step.
Thank you.
Another topic of discussion that's come up in a few of these candidate forums is affordable housing in St. Charles. Do you think Ward 3 is a good location for adding affordable housing? And if so, where do you see that fitting?
Are you referring to Ward 3 or our ward?
Ward 2.
I apologize, Ward 2.
Okay.
Copy paste.
We can talk about other people's wards. That's fine. Sure, we'll talk about somebody else's stuff. Sure, I'm happy to talk about Bob and Paul's area. That's fine. We'll design.
The downside of a script.
I mean, we probably could, because Paul likes to talk about our area. So
there you go.
Be
That's
fair.
True. That's true. Very true.
I'm assuming you want me to go first.
Yeah, Angela,
Okay.
you first. Apologies.
Okay. That's okay. Just making sure. Well, obviously for our ward, the largest non-developed area is going to be the mall area. And I'm not a huge fan of putting more apartments. I'd rather focus on more single family homes in that area. Again, mentioning earlier with, possibly 55 plus area with that in mind, I think would be really beneficial. We, the general consensus that of all the people that I was speaking with in my ward is they absolutely do not want additional apartments. It's and the reasoning is because it's going to stress out the school district, as well as infrastructure. So they're not interested in adding any more apartments in that area. As far as affordable housing, St. Charles is actually ahead of the game. With regards to like an overall percentage for affordable housing as a whole. City Council has actually instructed staff to be a little bit more zealous when requiring units that go towards providing emergency low interest loans. And they also have partnered with the county's area towards developing single family homes for young professionals to stay in the community. Um, the Obviously we've already talked about the Springs, but that obviously that was approved and then annexed from property was annexed from DuPage County. Uh, that DuPage, just really quick, that DuPage County area that was annexed was actually zoned for single family and then was changed to multifamily. So that's created, more infrastructure issues for that area. So again, just kind of repeating, constituents are not looking for more apartments in the area because they feel it would oversaturate the entire area. They are looking for single family homes. So single family homes, yes, apartments, no.
Can I ask a question? What infrastructure challenges is the Springs bringing on?
The stuff that I was told were just there was lack of sidewalks over there for safety issues. The Part of the development over there of the townhomes, they had to get extra special approval because they couldn't dig deeper because when they did, they were hitting water. So they had to get some additional approval to make accommodations to raise the level so that they weren't hitting the water table over there. So that in itself was creating some sort of sewer issue.
But
Any more specifics, I'm not sure, but that's what was mentioned.
do you mind me asking, mentioned by whom? Like, because we have never council. I'm sharing government services, being on council for 3+ years that's been developed. There hasn't been a single issue that Public Works has ever brought publicly to say, hey guys, we're having this issue. This is an infrastructure problem. We got to bring your attention to it. So I've never heard, nor is anybody on council, infrastructure problems developed by the Springs. So I would love to hear more about what those are. And I guess if you're talking about they had to go deeper, well, that sounds like a construction, not an infrastructure challenge. So I would just want to make sure that I wasn't missing something that hadn't been brought to council. Can you repeat the question, Kevin?
Sure. Is Ward 2 a good location for affordable housing stock? And if so, where do you see it fitting in?
Well, I mean, as Angela pointed out, City Council's done a lot, and I'm happy that the direction that we're going to try and make it more appealing, more able for your aging population, for people to be able to stay in the community, while also trying to encourage developments that target young professionals who want to get into St. Charles. I couldn't agree more with Angela's assessment that City Council and staff are doing a lot of good work. It is a priority. People absolutely deserve the opportunity to stay in a community that they've called home for years, and we should continue to do everything in our means to be able to do that. The challenging thing, here's another example of governing versus campaigning. So the city is not a developer. The city doesn't decide who should build what and should be like. So you're at the mercy. I'm a free market guy. I believe ultimately the market will tell you what should be built or what people have an interest in building. In my time in council, there has been, I believe, aside from the Pulte development, which ultimately didn't get passed through concept, there has been one single family home developer that has approached the city of St. Charles, and that was Munhall Glen. One. So it's not as if we're turning away single family homes because we don't want them. Everybody would love single family homes. The challenge is if you look at the market, you look at the way builders are approaching, they can build high density, they can put it on the market, they can get it filled, and then they can sell. The second ward in the city across the board, we need to be continuing to, that didn't sound, we have to continue to look for more places where you can have your aging population stay in the city while also being able to attract young professionals who want to come to call St. Charles home. That's difficult to do because, you know, we don't set the market, but the best we can continue to force, you know, and encourage our city staff to be pursuing those types of projects so that we do have a place that people can continue to call home.
Thank you. This next question starts with you, Ryan. Do you feel the city's been fiscally responsible over the past 4 years, and how could that be improved?
Without question. So when I came on council 4 years ago, I was really surprised to see some of the actual debt numbers. I mean, you were talking over $100 million of debt. How did we get here? Well, previous administrations, you know, my predecessor, they would bond projects out. They wouldn't appropriately fund things. It was basically the equivalent of running up the city's credit card debt. And what happens when you're carrying a lot of debt? Then now your monthly debt payments are bigger than the projects you want to do. They also aren't touching the way that they want to fund projects appropriately. So you've got an aging infrastructure, you've got growing debt, you're not paying your police and fire pensions at the recommended levels. So financially, fiscally, however you want to call it, walking in 4 years ago, we're not in a good place. There is no one that's going to walk in this room and say that the city today is not in a better place financially than we were 4 years ago. Now the challenge is going to be, just because you did well the last 4 years doesn't mean that automatically translates to, well, the next 4 years or the next 2 years will automatically be the same way. You've got increasing, you still have a lot of debt that you have to manage. You have an aging city that requires a ton of infrastructure attention, which means dollars. You have a $100 million unfunded mandate in lead pipe replacements that falls squarely on the city that it has to pay. And then lastly, you have to be honest about how you're going to fund the projects that you want to do. And if you don't want to dedicate the funding, then you can't greenlight the spending. And that's been a challenge that council's had. It's easy to not touch rates and then just say, well, we'll reach into reserves. Anybody want to take a stab at how long our reserves would last if we didn't touch rates to tackle all these infrastructure? It's less than 2 years. You would blow through your reserves just like a household would. So I am very happy with with the progress we've made these 4 years. We still have a long way to go, but it's going to take tough decision making, appropriate planning, and being honest about what projects we can pursue and what projects we're not going to be able to get to and how we're going to make that work.
Thank you, Ryan. Angela, same question.
I have something I'm just going to read because there's a lot of information here, so I don't want to make sure I don't leave anything out. The First Street courtyard area that was completed was originally presented as not costing anything to the taxpayers. Unfortunately, that wasn't true, and turned out that taxpayers were on the hook for over $5 million to cover those costs, which, by the way, was paid via using savings from over budgeting instead of putting those funds into a reserve or to pay off debt. The mall area could have been developed into mixed-use concept that was liked by many, but instead, as I already mentioned a few times, property was annexed. Some city council members voted against the mall development, not working with the mall developer. Taxpayers have missed out because of that on significant tax revenue that would have helped take pressure off the need to increase property taxes, which have been increased for the past 4 years. So needless to say, I think that there's a lot of room for improvement. With First Street, we should have eliminated some of the extras to help keep down those costs. And there should have been some transparency about the failure of not having that project being completely tax-free or cost-free. With the mall, working with the developer to get the area to completion should have been a top priority, as I already mentioned. But now that annex portion has created additional issues for that area. both are just unfortunate circumstances that I feel could have been avoided. And a lot of people have been talking about both of these topics extensively. So it's been quite a wide range of taxpayers that are very concerned over both of these items.
Thank you.
Right, thank you. And we'll wrap up here with a very hard-hitting question. Angela, you'll go first. What is your favorite restaurant in town, and what do you like to order there?
This is the hardest one.
Supposed to be.
Okay, so we go out to eat dinner and lunch in the area quite frequently. So I just want to say though, that every single restaurant that we have been to, we've always had a great meal and the food was always delicious. We have never had any issues with any of the foods. I could literally list all of them, but we'd be here for a while. But there's quite a few because we do try to go to different restaurants just to check out the menu and check out the ambiance. And you know, it's really, really great to have these choices. So I am thankful for all the businesses that do continue to keep providing all that, you know, with the city. Like I said, lots of favorites. One of them, though, kind of stands out just a little bit more are the tenderloin sliders from the Rock City Grill at Hotel Baker. These things are absolutely outstanding. The best sliders I have ever had, hands down. I don't know. That's probably my favorite.
All right. Ryan, same question. Favorite place to eat, and what do you get?
We are certainly not short on any good meal options in this city. I'm going to go a little closer to home in the second ward. We've been big fans of Cooper's Hawk and the ability to walk over there and an amazing wine selection. I'm a steak and potatoes guy, so I'm not very fancy. But again, we're fortunate because you have so many great people, you know, that put themselves out there and running these restaurants and different places. So it's really hard to go anywhere in town and not find a great place. We are probably biased to the second ward and going to Cooper's Hawk.
All right. Thank you. And thank you guys for coming out. I know you're very busy with the campaigning plus day jobs. So appreciate you taking the time
Day
to
jobs. Day jobs.
appreciate you taking the time to
Yeah.
talk.
Oh
Yeah.
God.
There's not enough hours in the day.
Awesome,
know
guys.
that-
I appreciate
I
it.
know that Ryan knows that. So
I'm like, I'm at the point now where I'm like, well, I mean, I can just do Angela's part and my part together so that, you know, one of us can have a normal day of work. I'm sure like, that's fine. I can give my numbers and just get through it so we can have a normal 8-hour day. It's crazy. So I appreciate you guys doing this. I know it's super busy, and Angela, have a good rest of your day.
thanks, you as well. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you guys.